one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end.
Star Wars The Last Jedi is just released, and naturally, everyone's dumping their initial impressions onto the internet. This one's been pretty controversial, though. Most people seem to aggressively love it or have been crushed by disappointment, and it got me thinking. So today I wanted to talk about one of the most important parts of the Star Wars experience: nostalgia. It's what makes you, me, and that guy dressed up as Lando at the theater all so crazy for Star Wars. Don't worry, there won't be any Last Jedi spoilers here. By now, you've no doubt witnessed, or maybe even felt, the strange effect nostalgia has had on the public reaction for both The Force Awakens and Rogue One. Initially, people loved them, earning critical praise and high review scores, but it didn't take long for the narrative to shift to a much more negative tone. The wave of nostalgia from positive reviews and release weekend viewings pretty much took over any conversation about the movies. They brought people back into the Star Wars world that many grew up with, and in the case of Force Awakens, proved that the newest trilogy might not be the prequel 2.0 we all feared it could be. This is something that's actually been studied in a formal capacity too. University of Arizona professor of social psychology Jeff Greenberg explained that, quote, people are so invested in it being done right and in a way that resonates with an important part of their childhood, end quote. The pure relief that it wasn't Phantom Menace bad was enough to sing Force Awakens praises, and Rogue One had a similar fervor going for it. But it turns out that people actually loved the Phantom Menace when it first released too. Even though it's now commonly regarded as an affront to the franchise, the initial hype of a brand new Star Wars movie led to overwhelming praise from fans.
I thought it was better than Return of the Jedi, personally, so.
According to CinemaScore, a widely trusted organization that's been doing exit polls for movies since 1978, all three prequel movies got an A- score from viewers on opening night. The critic scores were much lower, but it makes you wonder how many of the fans who came out of the theater grinning in 1999 feel the same way now. Once the dust settles and the fuzzy nostalgic feelings fade, people start to focus more on the negatives. We reached out to Dr. Clay Routledge, a psychology professor at North Dakota State University, who told us, quote, the emotion of nostalgia is hyping people up, but once they sober up, so to speak, they might have a different reaction, end quote. On top of that, nostalgia is strongest for things from the parts of our childhood where questions of identity and morality start to take shape. Routledge said that, quote, we tend to be more nostalgic about something the more time that has passed, which can make it difficult to compare new experiences to those old formative ones. So nostalgia makes it hard to judge how good something new actually is, even after it's worn off. That means when the rosy filter fades away, the negative points seem more prominent, but it's still hard to process how serious those problems are. Because of this, some may feel betrayed by their emotions, or even the film for playing on those nostalgic tendencies we've cultivated. This isn't a phenomenon solely tied to Star Wars either. You can see a similar pattern play out with each new Zelda game. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword were all released to extremely high praise, but were being harshly criticized by some when the next game came around. The key things here are that this isn't Star Wars's or Zelda's fault, and it doesn't necessarily mean that these things are actually bad. Nostalgia is a real emotion that affects the way people think, both positively and negatively. It can cloud judgment, but it can also give people a sense of identity and community. We're already seeing both sides of this coin with The Last Jedi. Lots of people loved it right away, some even calling it the best Star Wars movie ever. But its tone is pretty different from a traditional Star Wars film, and others felt betrayed by that, leading to equally passionate reactions in the opposite direction. Right now, it's too early to tell which way that egg will roll, as we're still firmly in the eye of the nostalgia storm. Nostalgia is a powerful psychological force that's hard to suppress, but knowing and accepting that it's affecting you is an important part of accounting for its influence. And hey, a lot of times, it's just fun to give in and ride the wave with your friends. Dr. Routledge also told us that, quote, nostalgia is an experience that motivates people to connect with others, end quote. So getting caught up in that hype is a real part of it, but so is the crash after.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
I'm not saying you shouldn't go for that ride, but it's helpful to be aware that you're doing it and double check your hyperbole in the moment, positive or negative. Otherwise, you could end up on a local news montage 18 years later telling the world how great little Anakin Skywalker is.
No!
For more on all things nostalgia and all things Star Wars, keep it tuned right here to IGN.